All right, please turn with me to page number 50. If I were to ask you who was your favorite teacher growing up in school, what's the name that comes to you? Please. Okay, please give me names.
Frau Hiller.
Okay, I'll take two more.
Yarborough.
One more.
Skyler.
Okay. Now, if you think about these teachers, think about what was it about these teachers that got your attention, that made them memorable, that made their class so engaging. Think about that. In the next 20 minutes, you as trainers, you're going to pick up the 6 I's we as trainers and momentum makers follow so that you transform the way you speak and you get maximum engagement from the student in a way that when the student comes to your class and your class is done, they say, I want to come to your class next. I'm coming back for this. Let's go. The first I, Preston?
Invite.
Invite. Any guesses how many minutes you have before a student subconsciously or consciously decides to check off? Any guesses?
3 minutes.
I'll take one more.
2
One
minutes.
is 1 minute.
How about this?
30 seconds.
It was a trick question. You have 8 seconds. 8 seconds before your audience decides, I'm going to be tuned in or I'm going to be tuned off. Which is why the first I is invite. You need a hook. You need to start with a hook and ask yourself, how can I start my presentation to hook my audience so that my students say, oh, this is going to be something, I want to listen to this. If you notice most speakers, they lose their audience not in the middle, not at the end, but where? In the beginning. Sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's subconscious. So the first I you need to take care of is invite. If you follow the first I, you are one step closer in having a very engaging class. Preston, what are some practical examples on how we can start with an invite?
Story or a video clip.
You can start with a story. You can start with a video clip.
Prop
You can start with a prop.
or role play.
You can start with a role play. These are good ways to start with a bang, and if you start with a bang, your students are more likely going to be paying attention and going to be engaged to you. Which brings us to the next I. Most of the time, the next I that trainers go towards is investigate, which is number 3, but before that, there is one more I. And what's that I, Preston?
Inform.
Inform. Avery, could you please come up? While Avery is holding up an image, let me ask you this. Have you ever gone to a theater or watched a movie without watching the trailer or without watching the movie, without looking at the movie poster or without hearing what this movie is all about? Have you ever tried that?
Accidentally.
Okay. Accidentally. How did you feel when you were watching the movie, when you had no clue?
Everything was a surprise.
Everything was a surprise, okay? I'll tell you what happens to me. When I'm in the theater watching and I have no clue what's going on, I'm always asking myself, what's going on? Like, where is this going? Similarly, there's always a population in your students, such as myself, if you don't inform them, like as though you're telling a map that I am over here, we are over here, and I'm going to take you, or we're over here, and I'm going to take you here, some of your students will check out. Then the rest of the time when you're training them, they're going to ask, where are you going with this? Why am I listening to this? If you don't inform them what the class is going to be all about. Did you notice that when I began, what did I tell you I was going to do? That you are going to get the 6 I's that's going to improve the way you engage with your class. Do you see how I informed you? And then I started so that now you have an idea of what I'm talking about. Inform is the next I you need to pursue, to follow, to have a higher engaging class. Thank you, Avery. Appreciate it, appreciate it. The next I that's on the list is
Investigate.
Investigate. Have you ever had that friend who is so good at talking, who is so smooth that they can get out of any situation? I can see some smiles, I can see some nods. We all know that one friend. I remember having this one friend who was very charismatic, who was very good. I see even pointing fingers. So good that he finished speaking, he finished teaching, and he sat down, and I overheard his mentor telling him, Sam, you're very charismatic. You're very good in the way you present, but you don't have content. You're full of hot air. The third I is investigation. Who do you think about when I hold this? Anybody? Which character? Sherlock Holmes. This is the investigator part coming out of you. When you are preparing for your presentation, go deep and learn the topic as much as you can. And when you're in the presentation, in class, bring all that details out. Bring all that good stuff out so that the students feel like, I'm getting good content out of this. So the first I is invite. Second I is inform. Third I is investigate. But here's the problem. Have you ever sat in classrooms where there's just so much content but it's not coming alive? I see heads nodding, which brings us to the next I, which is illustrate. Avery, could you please come up here? I have something to ask you. Avery's going to hold up this picture, all right? Take a good look at this picture. Avery, please go around the room. Take a good look at this picture. What do you see in this picture? I want you to turn to your neighbor, take about 15 seconds, and tell your neighbor, what do you see in this picture? And your time starts now. What do you see? All right, popcorn style. All right. Dallas, what do you see in the picture?
I see trouble ahead.
Trouble ahead. All right. Preston, what do you see?
I see a bear about to eat a man in the cell.
Russ.
I think you better turn around and throw that picture. Sink in.
And Nick?
I see a tasty snack for a bear.
Tasty snack for the bear, not for the man, right? Did you just notice that a picture is worth 1,000 words? I didn't have to tell you anything. This I, illustrate, is you asking yourself, how do I create mental images in my students so I'm not just spitting facts at them? A good teacher tells. A great teacher shows you. That's the power of illustrate. Preston, what are some practical ways on how to illustrate a point? Thank you.
With a story,
With a story,
a video clip,
you can show a video clip,
examples,
you can give dynamic examples,
use clever props.
you can use clever props. These are ways that you can bring your subject to life. And when you illustrate your points, your students are going to be more engaged. So we have invite, we have inform, we have investigate, we have illustrate. But all of this is good. But if you don't have the next I, you're going to be a trainer who's good at your engagement. But if you don't have the next I, you will not be great in your engagement. Okay, the next I is involve. On 3, 3, 2, 1. I see smiles all across the room. Why? Because there is power in involving your students in your presentation. Here's the thing. As human beings, as students, when you are involved in a teacher's presentation, you feel like you are contributing. And as a trainer, we must remember that when the students feel like they are contributing, they feel more engaged, and most importantly, they feel like they have ownership along with your presentation. That keeps the engagement really, really high. Russ, could you please read from the book, Ways to Involve the Audience?
Ask powerful questions. have them role play, ask them to give feedback related to the content, do an activity with them.
Correct. And these are practical ways you can use to involve the audience. Here's one of my favorite part, and this is a good secret, a powerful secret to have. When you're a trainer and you see a point that you remember that, hey, I know a student who can comment on this point, or one of my students has a story for that point, talk to that student before class, or ask them one day before the class begins that, hey, when I speak about this point, can you please share your story? That brings a certain level of dynamic to the class when you involve your audience, and that keeps your engagement very, very high. If you do all of these I's, it's very, very impressive and you can get a good engagement. But if you don't do the last I, all you did was just spit facts and nobody's taking anything home, which is why you need to be proactive on the last I, which is implement. The last I is implement, which means it is a call to action. You are appealing to the students. How are you going to put to action what I just taught you today? You are making your audience reflect, okay, I take that information, good content, good involve. How am I going to apply this to my life? This is where the audience gets to talk to themselves, hear themselves speak, and see how this information fits in their life. Pay attention on how you begin the first I, invite, and pay a lot of attention on your implement, how you end your presentation. Have you ever watched a movie that began well and the ending was horrible? I can see all your reactions. We don't want to be that trainer. We want to start well and we want to end with a strong implement, a strong call to action, so that your students are excited to go out there and implement what you just taught them. Let's wrap up. I will start with the first I and let me hear you say the rest. The first I is invite. The second I is
Inform.
the third I is
Investigate.
the fourth I is
Illustrate.
fifth I,
Involve.
and the last not the least, implement. If you follow these 6 I's, you will transform the way you train your students and you will get maximum engagement that makes the students say, I want to come back to your class. These were the 6 I's of instruction. Thank you.